Well, welcome to the Insiders Roundtable, where I'm joined by a panel of experts to discuss some of the big issues of the day. Our insiders this week, first, Mihir Walabakar, CEO of LiveLike; Shira Springer, SBJ columnist and lecturer at Boston University; SBJ media writer John Oran, he of the gray sweater ensemble today, very nice; and SBJ marketing and sponsorship writer Terry Lefton. Welcome to the Insiders Roundtable to each of you. I'm going to start with you, Shira Springer, because on our last roundtable, you thought the idea of the NBA holding an All-Star game in Atlanta was way off base. Did your mind change after watching the All-Star game? What did you think of the NBA's move now?
No, my mind did not change. If anything, what happened at the All-Star game confirmed my original thoughts. I think when your big takeaway is no positive tests at the All-Star game, if that's your key metric of success, I think that pretty much tells you all you need to know about the game. Plus, two 76ers players were ruled out the day of the game, and this was not the All-Star game that we're used to. And I know Adam Silver said he was, there were some economic interests and fan interests, but I really don't think the fan interests were well served, certainly not from a game that was 170 to 150.
Mihir, it's your first time on SBJ Spotlight, so I want to hear from you on your point of view on the All-Star game.
I loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong. In my household, we also spend quite a bit of time watching the interview with Meghan and Harry, but I think, in my personal opinion, NBA is all about moments. I mean, as with the NBA Top Shot, their highlights get sold for something. What Curry did in the three-point contest and the three-point shoot-off between Dame and Curry in the game, all those things are talking points as far as fans are concerned. And Twitter was blowing up. I mean, at the end of the day, NBA is in the business of creating as much positive news around their in-game content as much as it's of the off-court news. And as far as I'm concerned, that drove a lot of usage.
Do you really think that the NBA game, the All-Star game, was a success? You think that they got a win from that it enhanced their brand, that having players basically say, hey, I kind of don't want to be here, was good for the NBA?
I think it was a net positive.
Yeah, I think that there were players that said they didn't want to be there. There were plenty of players that said they did want to be there. I think it was just an unqualified success. I think the NBA stuck their neck out. The NBA pulled it off. The NBA's longtime network partner, TNT, is happy. And most importantly, the big headline for me wasn't about COVID tests. It was about bringing back a bit of normalcy to what has been a really abnormal couple of years. And I watched it. I was entertained by it. And I thought they pulled it off exactly as well as you could expect during a time of COVID.
Hang on.
It also was a great
Hang on there, John Oran. You talking about normalcy? The likely NBA MVP wasn't playing in the All-Star game, and you're telling me that's normal? Not just because I'm from Philly, I'm saying that's abnormal, and I'm saying this was a disaster. I was discussing this with a friend of mine who does considerable business with the NBA, and his point, which I thought was a good one, was that through the pandemic, Adam Silver has been the leadership voice to follow and an exemplary model. Here's the first time where he really looked compromised, and I think that's the overwhelming point to me. The number one commissioner in sport looked compromised on this one, and I don't believe it was a net positive.
Couple of things. One, it was a perfect lead-in to the Inside the NBA finale, the documentary finale. I ended up watching the whole thing for Shaq's episode yesterday, which I think Turner cares about as well. Yeah. Two, I don't think Adam Silver necessarily needs to have the reputation of being the players' commissioner. At some point in time, saying no, I agree. I hear what you guys are saying, and I have my own way of doing things, and I've taken everything into account, and we're doing this. I think also sets a good precedent for him going forward. So he's not always taken for the right by players in the future.
Well, it sounds like we have a split decision on the NBA All-Star game in Atlanta. I side with more of the economic imperatives of the NBA to have this game, just grind through it and to see what they could do. Let's shift to another sport. The NFL's league calendar year starts March 17th, and next week. With that in mind, what are the biggest issues facing the NFL this offseason? John Oran, I'll start with you.
Well, they're about to do their media deals, which means this offseason, Sunday ticket, Sunday ticket, Sunday ticket. The NFL wanted to wait to sign all of its Sunday afternoon deals before turning their attention to Sunday ticket. And the big questions, How much will the package be worth? Right now, DirecTV is paying about $1.5 billion a year. We will see if there's that kind of interest in there. Will DirecTV look to renew? AT&T wanted to walk, but now that it's spun off DirecTV, will DirecTV be more interested? We'll see about that. And everybody's pointing to the streamers, Amazon Prime, ESPN Plus, Peacock, Paramount Plus. Will they be active? Those are some of the big questions that I'm going to be looking at over the offseason.
I've said this here before, but I'm still wondering about legalized sports betting and how much the NFL will let in around its broadcast. It's easily the fastest growing sponsorship and advertising category in sports. So will America's biggest sports property feel the need to let legalized sports betting brands in its broadcast? That will have a lot to do with what those broadcasts look like and what other sponsors are doing. Can the NFL afford not to?
With the NFL, I actually always look at the unknown. I think that's the biggest issue that the league often faces. It's those issues that crop up. They're always reactive. They're always optics oriented. And I think it was just last month, maybe a few weeks ago, you had the Chris Doyle incident happen with the Jaguars, where they hired the former Iowa strength coach who was accused of bullying and racism. And I think the Jaguars thought they could get away with it and didn't really handle it well. There was tremendous backlash and criticism of that hire. It blew up. And so I think when I think about issues that might come up in the off season for the NFL, I wonder about the great unknown, particularly those social issues related to race and gender that may crop up that the NFL may not handle well in the moment.
I want to say something that often gets overlooked. If the NFL completes their media rights deals here shortly, they'll have long-term labor peace and they'll have long-term media deals. And that allows the league to really focus on some very innovative, interesting things, focus on the game. And I don't think the league gets enough credit for having this long-term runway of peace and media security. And now, Mihir, you know I'm always interested in what you're keeping your eye on in the tech space. So what's got you intrigued or excited so far in 2021?
Digital collectibles. In 2 words, I think there is so much activity happening around trading cards, digital collectibles, NFTs. The pace, I mean, it's almost hard to keep pace with the news that's coming out there right now. It is extremely intriguing. I'm spending a lot of my time trying to learn about it more because it has downstream implications for the work that we do in fan engagement as well, with partners, leagues, teams, etc. So that's something that I'm keeping a close eye on.
Mihir, convince me those will hold their value. Why wouldn't I just go buy a framed print? Why do I need a digital collectible that's attached to the blockchain? I don't get it. The jury's out. I have no idea where this will go. I honestly think there's a speculative nature to this. I think it's more about trading rather than owning necessarily. Like, a lot of people are going to invest in it. And frankly, in the internet era, you just need one niche in the internet to find it to be an attractive thing for it to blow up. I mean, the internet is all about niches as far as I'm concerned. And if a subsection of the user base thinks there's value in it and they can trade it, it can be used to park money. It can be used for trading purposes. It doesn't have to have the same dynamics as physically owning cards. Frankly, I didn't understand why people ever owned physical cards either. So, in my mind, it's, I grew up doing trump cards with WWE in India, and that was fun. But after a certain point in time, it's lost its allure as well. In the case of NFTs, though, I do believe there are some things that can be done where, maybe there's a personalized message from LeBron James that is associated with the highlight, which might give it, some uniqueness. I personally think there is a lot that can be done with it. I think it's very, very early days, though.
And for the very naive on this roundtable, NFTs are?
Non-fungible tokens. It's basically crypto assets that are based on the Ethereum blockchain and that cannot be transferred. You can prove origin, you can prove uniqueness, and you can make sure that the creator of these assets get access to the value out of trading them throughout their life. So the middleman is basically cut out. The creators can go directly to the buyers.
Well, we're good to go on to the next section, one of our most popular section of the Insiders Roundtable, our prediction and a person of the week. We'll start with prediction. John Oran, what's on your mind this week?
Well, Abe, you'll be retired living in some cabin on a Vermont lake by the time this prediction comes to pass.
That
but
sounds
I'm
nice.
telling you right now, the NFL and Disney are going to have to open up and redo their rights deal before it ends in the 2030s. Why? Well, do you know how you'll be consuming video in the 2030s? Or more to the point, do you think there's going to be anyone under the age of 40 in the year 2032 who'll be a cable subscriber? Just last week, the CEO from Altice USA, one of the biggest cable operators in America, told CNBC that he could envision a day where cable TV as we know it simply no longer exists. This is from an executive whose business is cable TV. So I understand why the NFL and the networks went that long with it, but the trend lines are pretty clear when it comes to cable television right now.
Well, for the last few weeks, we have seen a number of women join ownership groups. Most recently, I think of Renee Montgomery and the Atlanta Dream, but also we've heard about Serena Williams and Angel City and Naomi Osaka and The Courage out of the NWSL. And so I am declaring 2021 the year of the female owner. But I am also predicting that we will see many, many more women get into the ownership ranks in a variety of leagues in the years to come. And I think there's nothing better than that.
Also in the licensing area, which we were just talking about, you've seen quite a bubble. We were talking about it in collectibles and trading cards. The latest was a Kobe Bryant card selling for 1.8 million over the weekend. I believe that bubble will pop by the end of the year. I think there's a lot of outside speculation money. I think they will want to get their money out as investors before the year is over, and it will be left with collectors mainly, not investors.
The SPACs have just seen a massive boom. I feel like that's another one of those bubbles where everyone's just chasing. It's a gold rush. So I believe there won't be enough companies out there to be acquired by all the SPACs that have formed.
Well, my prediction is more keep your eye on than a true prediction. But Overtime is launching a professional basketball league that will pay high school age players a minimum of $100,000, offer equity in Overtime and health insurance, and it has the potential to significantly upend high school and college basketball. Overtime Elite will launch in September with top players ages 16 to 18. They forfeit the remaining high school eligibility and future college eligibility to earn money. Lots of details still to come. What city they will play in, how many teams, roster size. And we all know the odds of a new league becoming successful are slim, but I believe this concept has a chance. Why? Well, Overtime has developed one of the hottest brands among today's basketball youth. Its leadership in Dan Porter and Zach Wiener offer an intriguing mix of business smarts, youthful ambition, and pop culture sensibilities. And it's also well capitalized and has access to heavy hitters. But most interesting to me is this brand and this content has been built by a massive audience on social media and directly through streaming. That's the DNA of Overtime. So it makes it very well positioned that Overtime Elite could be the poster child of the next generation sports league. Now we're going to our person of the week. Start with you, Mihir.
My person of the week is Todd Boehly, owner of the Dodgers. The news came out recently that Sportradar might be going public with a SPAC with Todd Boehly. Obviously they are already on the board of DraftKings, and now with Sportradar, if the news is true, that's going to be a big chunk of the US sports betting market, which has been the talk of the town for the past 2 years or more, at least in the US. So I think they are making some real big moves.
My person of the week is NFL SVP and head of consumer products, Joe Ruggiero, because for myself and those in sports licensing, the pandemic did not start with Rudy Gobert and the cancellation of the Oklahoma City-Utah game. It started the weekend before with the cancellation of the NFL Annual Consumer Products Summit, easily the most important gathering in sports licensing. They are gathering again this week for the first time since that one that didn't take place. It'll be virtual, of course, and all the NFL has to do is figure out how to rebuild some of its apparel, catch up with some of the digital collectibles we're talking about, and just get into the post-pandemic frame of mind.
So I want to talk about two women-led initiatives. First, there is the Sports Innovation Lab that has started a data-driven leadership board. And then there are athletes Alex Morgan, Chloe Kim, and Sue Bird, who have started a media company called Together, which is to promote female athletes and coverage of female athletes and female, athlete-driven stories. And I just think this is an important time where we are seeing female athletes and women take control in the sports industry and launch these initiatives. A lot of them get launched during March, Women's History Month, but I hope to see a lot of them launched in other months and year round.
Abe, I'm going to take an editorial license. I'm going to do People of the Week, and that's Irv Cross and Mike Pearl. And I'm going to suggest to you that the CBS pregame show, the NFL Today, had as much impact on the popularity of the league as anything else, NFL films included. Personally, I made sure to watch it every single week when it came on. In just the last 9 months, we've lost Phyllis George, Irv Cross, Mike Pearl, with the NFL about to cash in on nearly $10 billion worth of media rights. I just want to honor the NFL Today crew as my People of the Week.
Well said, John. My person of the week is Amy Howe, who is leaving Ticketmaster and becoming president of FanDuel. Well, she will lead the company's commercial efforts and report to CEO Matt King. So why is this important? Well, Amy Howe moves into the hottest growing part of the industry and can apply all the innovative and analytical work she did at Ticketmaster to help accelerate fan engagement around gambling. And having worked at Live Nation Ticketmaster for more than 6 years, Amy also brings with her unparalleled relationships, very well regarded by leagues, teams, and event operators. We also now have a senior woman in an area that has been largely male-driven. So this has all the makings of a home run hire by FanDuel. So my person of the week is Amy Howe. Well, that wraps up our Insiders Roundtable. Thank you to Mihir, Shira, Terry, and John, and thank you all for joining us on SBJ Spotlight. If you have questions, thoughts, or comments, please email them to us at spotlight@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll see you again in about 2 weeks for another look at the key issues in sports business. Until then, be well, be safe. Thanks for joining us, and take care, everybody.